Yo, for you guys who have done Eye of the Jailer, okay, I don't want you to answer if you're in a top guild in WoW. I want you to answer if you've killed Eye of the Jailer on Mythic and you're at the most 3 to 6 out of 10 Mythic right now. So meaning you're on or just killed Painsmith. I want to know what strat you all used to kill Eye of the Jailer. How many of you guys did the 18 people on one side get it to 20% and then go to the other side? Okay, I gotta do a poll. So people do the 10 out of 10 do swap. Wait, how do they do the swap? Hold up. Here's what I did. Okay, here was my strat for swapping, although we never did it. Okay. My strat was tank 1 here, tank 2 here. Raid 1 will just be this ranged marker. Split raid group 2 is on this ranged marker. There's a gate from here to here and here to here. And you keep the eyes here. Okay? And simply what happens is you get to 5 stacks on each mob. Okay? The tank and this entire raid jumps over and taunts this eye as this raid gates over and taunts this eye. And both full raids swap. I don't think anyone does this. I think what people do is they do it with the tanks staying. So what they do instead, this was my strat that I came up with if we were to ever swap before the raid came out. Okay. What I think people do is they leave their tanks. Okay. They have the bosses a little farther away. And I bet they get to 5 stacks. The melee converge on the ranged. 5 stacks happens. They gate across. And then they wait for their stacks to expire before going on to this ad. Is that what you guys do on the 10-10 swap? One group takes chains usually. Oh, I mean, that's fine. So basically, taking the chains would be this simple, right? So remove this gate entirely. You would just have a gate go from here to here, and then you would have the natural chains. We'll just use this as the chain marker. And then simply, instead of it being over there, it would just shift to the bosses always being here. Right in the middle of each, the tanks always stay, and then one group would go and take the chain over, right? These 2 people right here take the chain across, and then those same 2 people over here gate over. Okay, so that's the 10-10 strat. The other strat is the 18-2 strat, where this tank is sitting over here with a healer, or 17-3. You can send 2 healers too if your tank's duty or he's on a bad class. And then you have the entire other raid over here with this guy. Right, let's remove all this other shit. Remove the gate. And basically what happens is you get this mob to about 20%. This tank stays with a healer. The entire raid goes across, gets in range of this eye. Melee don't go in range until his thing is gone, and then they leave. Now this tank stays here. These 2 healers actually swap. These 2 healers swap to heal the other tank, I believe, or one healer, and then this healer goes back across to not have any issues, and that person swaps as well. So the only people who never swap are the 2 tanks, basically. I believe that's how most people are doing the 18-2 or 17-3, and then basically you get this mob to 20%, and then you have the ranged go in the middle, and this tank drags it, and you just like kill the eye. The ranged kill this eye, the melee kill the other one. All right. How we do it is very simple. We just take one eye, put it here, one eye, put it here, entire raid group 1, so tank, melee, ranged healers, and ranged DPS from group 1. This is all group 1 over here, and then the other side has tank, melee, potentially. I usually keep all the melee on one side for Wind Fury. And then they have ranged and ranged healers. This way, healers are in range of all 20 people without different stacks. Ranged DPS can multi-dot both of the eyes, and no one ever swaps, and you just burn the eyes in this phase. Now, to make this, I don't know how many guilds have swapped to this. I actually don't know. Chat, just by a show of hands, how many of your guilds either always did the burn strat in both phases, or have recently swapped to it in farm by doing the burn in the intermission? Mine swapped. Swap, we've always did the burn strat. Yeah. Okay. How much DPS is needed? I don't ever really think about the amount of DPS that's needed. To do it safely, you want to kill it before the second Titanic Death Gaze goes off, which I think you have like 45 seconds, maybe a little longer. But it's very simple. Here's how I do my cooldowns for it. If I were ever to do this, it's just 2 mins on CD, and then Giga 3 mins in intermission only. This is usually Moonkins. That's what this usually means, Venthyr Moonkins. And you usually just have them carry the phases. Now, the lust timing is interesting. Let me pull up an old VOD. So we go in, we use 2 minutes on the pull. Both Gape and Sang hold for the intermission. Here's how we do our lust timings, okay? So everyone 2 minutes right away. And then we push the phase, always at a hilarious point, by the way. I wonder if we do it here. We always push 66% right as we get a fresh ad. Also, keep in mind, this is 19, man. Oh, did we get it? Did we get a perfect push? We did, yes. You wanna push just like this so your melee and range get to cleave more. Obviously, I'm kidding. You obviously don't want to go into this phase with a fresh ad, but we like to hit other stuff. So we pull the eye over. Now keep in mind, we're at 1 minute and 10 right now, so no one has cooldowns, except we do the Moonkin CDing here at the 1 minute mark, and it comes up at 4 minutes, and we usually lust at 4 minutes, with the third 2 minute being up, and 3 minutes being up for the second time. Now, the way that we do it is it allows us to lust with all of our cooldowns up. We like kill the rest of this phase with lust, and then we go into the boss burn with Moonkin ramps still happening. So here we were a little bit not synced, but that's mainly because we have a buyer. So we had our Moonkins. Look how fucking stupid this is, by the way. Look how far behind that one is. And at one point in this, I say Venthyr Moonkins swap to even it up. That's the only words I said. And look what happens to the health bar of this second thing. Look, I say Moonkin swap right now. Look at its health bar. What a fucking stupid class, dude. Just that is fucking... 2 people did like 30% of that thing's health in like 4 seconds. What the... Dude, watch it again. The Moonkins are just hitting this one, and I say Venthyr Moonkin swap. You can see him. Look at his little arms. Look at him. That Moonkin was just like, all right, fuck it. I'll hit the other one then. He turns around and just does this to it. See it. Yeah, watch the meter too. Watch the meter right now when I say to swap. Sang just goes, okay. Kills it. Yeah. That's their entire 30 seconds of CDs and 30 seconds of ramp though. I know. Yeah. And then we get back in this phase. 2 minutes come up right now again. We have our DPS rip our 2 minutes. Now, the only downside of this, by not having 3 minutes come up again in this phase, is this phase will take a little longer. But here's the reality. This phase isn't hard. Okay? You can kind of do this phase forever, really. You just kill this. Now, one piece of advice I'll give you guys is every single time I've seen someone try to soul shape this beam, they die probably 40% of the time. Now, that's not a super high amount, but it's enough where if people are routinely dying to it, just ban them from trying to soul shape it. Here's the rule I have in my guild. You can soul shape it as much as you want, but as soon as you die, you can never do it again. So it's just up to you. If you die, you're banned from doing it forever for the rest of farm, and if you don't die, you can keep doing it. So it's up to you. It's a very tight timer. Door of Shadows, however, is very easy to do. All right, so now notice with the CDs we had on the pull before, we actually phased the boss in 10 seconds with the fresh ad, remember? But this time, we're going to get it and it's at 38. So we're going to be able to get it a little bit lower, which is fine. It shouldn't be an issue, though, with the burn strat. Okay, so this ad is right here. We just hit it while doing the beam. We're just slowly pushing. The boss is going to push right now, which is fine. Notice if you push him during the beam, he just stops it and goes to his side. That being said, you usually do want to stop it before he starts getting halfway through so everyone can like easily be at the side they need to be at, right? So here's what we do in the next phase. So for the first like 40 seconds of this phase, we kind of chill. We're just vibing, you know? We have literally 3 rallies up, 2 darknesses, 1 AM, 1 barrier. I haven't used a single raid cooldown in this fight up until this point because it wasn't necessary. Okay, Moonkin cooldowns, if you remember, they use them at the 1 minute mark, right? So their Moonkin cooldowns will come up in 30 seconds and everyone's 2 minutes will come up in 30 seconds. What some guilds do is they use their cooldowns in this phase to get through it, but then they lust the last phase with no cooldowns. That's never made sense to me. Lust in a lot of ways is obviously very good, but its main thing of being good is just combining with everything else. Lust enhances your other damage CDs, so you want to use them together. So basically, I just have a rule on this fight that whenever the 4-minute marker comes up, knowing that that will be all 3 minutes and all 2 minutes again, I just fucking rip Lust. It'll probably be sometime in the next 20 seconds. Look, 354, 355, 356. I probably call for Lust like right now, usually. Yep, so we Lust. And that, so keep in mind, these things are at like 30%. What you're lusting right here is you're lusting the hardest thing to heal in the whole fight. You're most likely beating this Death Gaze. But even if you get it in this phase, it's not dangerous because the boss actually cancels it to do his last phase mechanic. If you ever get Death Gaze to spawn in this phase, the boss will still do it with people with high stacks, and it's very dangerous. However, if you push the boss into the last phase while he's casting Death Gaze, he actually will cancel it. Very important. And also, just for reference, whenever you're doing Titanic Death Gaze in this phase, this is the most dangerous part. Like, you shouldn't die to just throughput. You usually die to throughput plus a Death Gaze going off. Okay, and then I have the Moonkins swap and kill the far one. Very good. And then we get the boss out. Now, so here, perfect. Do you guys see him cast Titanic Death Gaze? Right. He's about to, right now. See how the boss is casting Titanic Death Gaze? That destroys you when it goes off. That's like Rally AM, stuff like that. You can't really barrier because you can't get the two groups together. But notice how when this eye dies, he actually cancels it to do immediate extermination. So you're not actually in danger of that. And then now you still have Lust up for the first 20 seconds of this phase. So it's not like the Lust is fully useless. And it's also still in your latter half of your Venthir Moonkin cooldowns. But everyone on the fight got a Lust with their cooldowns up. Generally speaking, unless you can help it, or unless you can't help it, you never, ever, ever want to assign a Lust on a fight that does not line up with everyone's cooldowns. There are some fights where there's very unique times where it makes sense to do that. Like, for example, there are healing lusts in this game where, like, yes, you're lusting for damage, but also the healer lust is, like, really important, where that's maybe not the case. But just on this fight, I would recommend not lusting on the pull unless you're just in farm and you don't care. This is for people who haven't done it before. I would definitely recommend lusting in the second intermission when your cooldowns come up leading into the end of the fight. That's my favorite time to lust. Now, I don't know exactly how long your guild will be on this boss, how long it'll take for you to kill it. For us, we're 19-manning it, right? And we were able to have the 4 minutes come up with about 40% on the eyes. It's actually possible your guild, even with 20 people, is slower than this if you're newer players. So if that's the case, in my opinion, let's just say right now, these eyes are at 80%. I would still rip Lust here. I would Lust whenever your 3 minutes come back off cooldown and your 2 minutes come up at the 4 minute mark. Because to be honest with you, the last phase is the damage check is a joke. It's so easy. You could go into the last phase right now, right 33%, and he's casting immediate extermination. You could go into the last phase with 20 people with 0 cooldowns and no lust, and you will kill it. That's how easy it is. It's not hard. Not to mention you can bubble off some of the stacks and res people and they lose their stacks. So it's very simple. Why wouldn't you just save lust and CDs for the final boss burn? Great question, because the final boss burn is not hard, and more often than not, doing this strat, a guild is way more likely to die trying to do this phase without cooldowns by it lasting a super long amount of time and their healers running out of juice than they're ever going to wipe to the last phase burn. That's the answer. Last phase burn is a joke. If you lust with all CDs at 33%, you will kill this boss in 15 to 20 seconds. You won't even get a full lust. It's a waste. Yeah, it's too easy. And also, if you're a healer, you just use all of your healing CDs in the actual phase. Okay, so very cool. That's basically that. Now, there are other strats to do. This is the strat I recommend doing because while it has a little bit more of a requirement to it, it's way more simple to learn. Like, way more simple to learn than, like, just fucking swapping and when to swap. Like, you'll probably kill this boss faster just using CDs in the intermission, which they naturally line up, by the way. 2 minutes come up in every intermission, 3 minutes come up in every intermission. I think it's better to do this because while there are more strict checks, there's less movements and mechanics you have to learn. So I think it's better. It's what I would recommend people to do. Now, I did at the beginning go over kind of the differences between them, but of the 3 that I went over, highly recommend just doing this. The group that's on the left side, their ranged and healers go against the wall here. The group that's on the right side, their ranged and healers go in the middle of the room. Everyone's in range of everyone. It's very easy. All right, so that's that fight. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the 9. Again, I'm going to use a VOD of us doing it 19-man. So I have a bone to pick with raid leaders or decision makers in guilds. You guys have to stop lusting not on the pull on this boss on Mythic. I have heard and seen people lust when these first... Here, I'll fast forward it. I repeat, do not lust right here. Back up. When Skyja jumps down, do not lust. What are you lusting? We have 19 people in this raid, and while we did lust on pull, obviously, 1 minute is up here. Lust doesn't double your damage, okay? If you lust when Skyja comes down with a 20-man raid, you will very likely be doing it before 2 minutes comes up, and you won't have 3 minutes either, which there are 3 minutes in this game right now really scale with lust. So do not fucking lust. And I'm not talking on farm, by the way. I am not talking about farm. I'm talking about progression. I'm talking about progression. On heroic, it actually makes sense to lust on Skyja. Why? Because fragments don't start until Skyja's out. But in this fight, the first phase and the second phase are like the same shit. There's Call to Valkyrie in both phases. Yeah, there's recall on Skyja, but like, what's a recall doesn't matter. Fragments is like the only thing that makes this fight clearly harder in heroic when Skyja's out versus Mythic. But on Mythic, fragments start right away. Just rip Lust, man. Lust is more efficient because there's 2 targets too. There's a ton of really good 2-target DPS classes that scale off of haste. Do not Lust when Skyja comes out. It's objectively bad. Do not do it. Okay? Pull the boss, rip Lust. Case closed. And just blast the boss. Alright, so there's 3 when she's down, yeah, with no cooldowns. And if you get Skyja down around the 2-minute marker, cool, you're already missing all of your 3s. Don't do it. If your guild wants to hold Lust and all CDs until Skyja comes down, leave. Leave the guild. Do not do that. The main thing here is actually Signa. I've actually noticed a lot of people wipe to missing her resonance cast or dissonance cast. Very dangerous. Wait, sorry, hold up. Hold up. Our 2 minutes come back for Lust, and we die if we don't Lust it. You die to what? You're saying if you don't Lust when Kira and Signa are below 30%, your guild wipes to kicks? Well, then just kick it. And if you don't kick it, then if you're making the argument for kicks, you will see less overall dissonance kicks by lusting on pull than you will lusting here. Unless you're saying once there's 3 targets, it's much harder to get kicks than when there's 2. But why? Aren't you focusing these bosses down anyway? If you're so worried about kicks, wouldn't you just burn the boss that has the most kicks anyway? In which case, everyone's targeting it, and it would be crazy for a kick to go off. Lust doesn't help kick. That doesn't make sense, man. Just lust on the pull. That's all. Okay, here we go. Also, as far as healers, DPS class on this fight, I don't think they matter. Rally is very good, and I'll kind of explain why as we go through. I would always run more healers on this fight. If you're looking for a progression kill, I would actually advise 6 healing or 7 healing this boss. Is it necessary? No. But you have to talk about what actually... This boss is 3 healable, but you don't really gain anything by killing it faster. You just need consistent throughput for whatever the boss's cast is called. What is the boss's thing that does damage when she comes out? I don't remember what it's called, but... You just need very little damage to actually do the mechanics. You just need to stay alive. We 3 heal it. We 4 heal it. I would not suggest 4 healing this boss for progression. If you're a guild doing this for a progression kill, especially because most guilds have pretty below average healers, really good healers are hard to find, highly recommend that you 5 heal at the very least on this boss, and I would recommend 6 healing. Because if the goal is just killing it, I promise you the more healers you add, the easier it becomes. The more dispels you have available in case people fuck it up like we're doing right here, the more throughput you have for the boss's resonance, whatever it's called. Yeah, resentment. Right, so it's just better. And if you want, just focus down Signa so you don't get any Song of Dissolution to go off. That would be my recommendation. All right, so once you have this happening, there's really only a few dangerous parts of this fight. And the people who are in danger of dying... Well, let's talk about Glacial Fragments for a second. So I don't know how a lot of guilds do Glacial Fragments. So let's talk about how... here, I'll just reload it. How we do Glacial Fragments is this. Let's say we got the whole crowd jumping over here, right? We got the whole squad with Skyja, okay? Now, let's just say these 4 people right here get Glacial Fragments. Let's say these 4 people get Glacial Fragments, all right? So they're all over here with a debuff, and healers dispel them one by one. This person gets to... This is how probably most people do it because it can be YOLO'd. You just want all 4 people to go to a spot, and you want to dispel them one by one. But very importantly, you don't really want to dispel more often than like every 1 to 1.5 seconds. Because if you dispel this guy, and then he's running in, and then you dispel this guy, it might jump back to him. And then this guy has to go back, and then this guy has to go back, and it's fucking awful. Dispel someone, give them a second to get out. If you're a DPS, know that if you ever get dispelled, you need to move. If you're a ranged player and you get dispelled and stand here, you're part of the problem. Run back into the group, get dispelled, run back into the group. Always prioritize melee, by the way. Always dispel melee before ranged. Ranged can sit out there and do damage, melee can't. Don't hate your melee players. Insta-dispel melee when they get out, go back in, melee goes back in, dispel, and then naturally, when there's 2 people left, no matter who has the stats, no matter who has the stacks, they get rid of it. If you dispel this guy, it goes away on this guy. If you dispel this guy, it goes away on this guy. Then everyone goes back to the group. Cool. All right. How we wanted to do this on progression was we had a weak aura that basically said 3 things. 4 debuffs went out, and it said 3 things. 2 people were told to go to square. Okay? Directly pixel stacked on each other. Okay? So 2 people's weak auras say stand on square, and then someone would just mark a square every time. 1 person's weak aura will say go to the left of square. They'll stand here. 1 weak aura will say go to the right of square. They'll go here. Okay? A priest of any spec mass dispels on all of these players. What happens is these 2 players' stacks will dispel to each other. Okay? This person's stack will go on either of the ranged. Doesn't matter who it goes on. This person's stacks will go to either of the ranged. So now, after the mass dispel, this is true. This melee stacks are gone. This melee stacks are gone. And they're only on these 2 players. And the priest, during their mass dispel, can queue a regular dispel on either one of these range targets, and it will actually instantly get rid of it. So 1 priest, when you use this positioning, can instantly get rid of every pool with 2 globals. That was my idea going into the raid. So basically, it all happens within 0.1 seconds once the mass dispel goes off, but basically what happens in slow motion is this guy's stacks go away, this guy's stacks go away. These are the only 2 people with stacks, and obviously, if you dispel them all in 1 person, they go away. And they just they dispel. And if you don't have if you have a Shadow Priest mass dispelling, you could have any healer mass dispel this. You can choose to do this. We never actually implemented this weak aura because the boss was so easy that we got here and the weak aura wasn't working exactly how we wanted it to. And we were just like, dude, this mechanic's so easy, just fucking YOLO it. So we just YOLO it. But just know that there is a cooler way to do it if you want to set something up like that. All right, so onwards. Difficulty of this fight now that fragments are removed is knowing what combos are coming up and which ones are actually dangerous. Generally speaking, in this fight, the people who are in danger as healers, you should have a glow weak aura, are people with this essence thing. They're basically taking like a ton of extra damage because they're sharing damage with everyone around them. I think they nerfed how much damage it did since testing, but it's still like where someone's going to die. So like, for example, like if you guys have soaks, one general rule is if you guys have people with these essences right here, you never want them to soak something. Like basically, if you have this debuff right here, never do mechanics. Link essence, never do mechanics. That's like, it's just extra danger. Oh, also, small side note, don't get baited. I've seen so many pug groups wipe to this. What happens, look at the angel. She's going to charge to that one and to this one and to this one. And most people, when they see the angel charge to you like this, they get out. But in reality, the thing that actually matters is this. So don't get baited. I've seen it happen a lot. But yeah, so this thing's going to... we have to run away from this. That's fine. Is the spell queue constant throughout this fight? I believe it's Wait. Okay, so it was constant in testing. It was constant in heroic. I don't remember. I want to say it is constant on Mythic. I don't know for a fact, though, because I don't really pay attention. But I'm pretty sure every single time we push Skyja, this happens. It does the bubbles into everything, so pretty sure it's constant and it's always the same, which is a huge letdown, by the way, because I think this would have been one of the coolest mid-tier bosses. Can you imagine if they would have made the 9 the 5th boss instead of like Soul Render and just made Soul Render some easy-ass 3rd boss, and then they like made it so Call of the Valkyr did every single mechanic, you know? Or like Call of the Valkyr did 4 instead of 3, but when he did Recall, it would double everything up, so you actually had all of them. You know, like, I feel like this boss had so much cool potential to be way harder, and they wasted this boss's potential by being early in the raid. That's my only take. I think they could have done so much shit. Other than that, honestly, you'll find me barely using cooldowns. There is a really good time for Rally and Devotion Aura, so let's go over the different combos while we're here. Okay, so combo number 1. Okay, it is small soaks into these big bombs, these like big purple bombs you want to get out of the group, into a tank bubble. It's the very first one that happens every time. Very non-lethal. There's nothing lethal about this. You should never use raid cooldowns here, like rallies, defensives. There's just no reason unless you have extra. There's no risk whatsoever. Word of recall, I suggest here pulling the boss before this recall to a wall, so less room is taken by this. If not to a wall, just make sure it's not in the middle. Just don't be that tank that puts a bubble in the direct middle of the room. That shit's bad. But this is like, oh, he's about to cleave him. Oh, he's jumping out. Cool. Try not to have people who are soaking the small and big thing. Don't do those at the same time unless they have a big cooldown. And then these are like resentments. So like every time resentment comes up, it's like basically 50% uptime. He casts it every 20 seconds. It lasts like about 10 seconds or so. Or she. It's just, you just need something for everyone. It could be mine or two. Like a hymn, a revival, a salve, wings alone, or wings with Ashen is overkill, a darkness, an aura mastery, just a barrier. Just like literally one thing per, or maybe you don't even need one thing. Like that's how easy it is. But this is why having extra healers helps. Because as long as you live to the end of the fight with 20 people, you could kill this with years on the enrage. It's so easy. So you just want to overheal this fight. It makes it way easier. These meteors can be soloed. They can be immunityed. They can be spell warding. And they can be toughed. So like you could just have that person like, so maybe instead of soaking this here, could have ran out of the group and gotten sack and pain suppression and probably lived with a personal. But like why? You know, it's just not hard enough. Or obviously other things that aren't immunities like dispersion and greater invis, stuff like that. But you get it, right? It's not hard enough. Okay. Resentment is happening again. Yeah, not a lot going on here. I think the eye is actually harder than this boss, but yeah. You just stand in here. I'm trying to, what else is there to like learn from this fight? Oh yeah, the combos. So this is the second combo. I believe it's Massacre, Soak, then Massacre. So the very first thing that happens is it does lines across the room, and then there's a Soak, and then there's lines across the room again. When it recalls it in a few seconds, it's just going to do them all at once, which I think they intended... One second, I probably missed it. Did I miss the recall? Oh, it's right after this, I bet. Right here. So it recalls... I think this was supposed to be... They designed this to be dangerous by putting out the meteor on a player with Massacre, but they actually made it easier. The word of recall is easier than the call of the Valkyr, because while, yes, double Massacre does go off, it goes off before you have to soak. So they remove all of the difficulty. It's the third boss. Maybe that was on purpose. So, yeah, very strange how that works. But, okay. Then you, like, stand in here. Small bomb. Oh, now, here's the Wombo Combo. This is by far the hardest part of the fight. It's when you have essences... Which I don't know if essences come out after this. They actually designed the fight since beta to have essences wear off and go back on after these phases where they used to last during them. I do not worry about this Glacial Fragment during this. I just like heal through it until after. This is where you have bombs being soaked outside the group. You have small bombs going on players right now. So small bombs have to get out of the group so they don't blow up on people. And then you have soaking under the boss right now, all at once. Now, this is easy when it's in Call of Valkyr, but in Recall, which it should do right after this, I'll back it up. Recall is going to happen right after it's over. It's going to do them all in succession. The boss is basically dying, but if you last longer than this, what I do here, if you have a res, I would just kill this person. Or them live it. Give them all your externals. Try to have them live. The only real danger of dying here is a few people being out of position and soaking this with like less than 5 players. Because you're already going to have less. So 4 people need to be out. And then another 6 people, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people with small bombs can't soak it. Right? So you already have only half your raid. And if like your tanks are in front of the boss instead of in the soak, You could lose people. So you can, this can be the spot where you save all of your, this is a huge like rally and aura mastery spot where you would use it. So it's like the only spot in the fight where people can actually die. This boss had potential to be very spicy. Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else in the VOD I'm missing about killing it? Like, I feel like that boss is just so straightforward. So easy. I also want to do guides like this for Soul Render and Remnant in a few days, like later this week. So I'll do that. But I'm just going to do those for now.